Hey guys, Akariss here, bringing you another individual unit analysis video, except this one is based on our brand new Tempest Trials unit, Brunnya. So, as you guys already know, we're going to be covering individual units in addition to the unit role types, and this will complement and pretty much supplement the older videos which have room for these newer characters who may fit these roles. Believe it or not, units like Virion, didn't get called as bow infantry. They didn't get included in that video because the weapon refine, and Brunnya isn't in the blue infantry tome analysis. And these units are definitely warranting their own videos. So these are kind of shorter videos in comparison to those longer role videos because it just covers one singular unit. But things always change, meta adapts, and to kind of keep things simple, to kind of give you an early perspective of what I think of Brunnya from the beginning, and I'll summarize all her points throughout and the end, is that she's a really good unit, especially for you guys who might be more inclined on saving orbs and looking for good units just through grails. But the thing is, with a hefty cost of 2,700 grails and a lot of premium fodder that she's going to demand, regardless of what way you want to build her, my question is whether it's truly worth building her at all. And we already have a very, very, very good comparison to her in the way of Winter Cecilia, who's time-tested and proven to be a consistent, strong tank. I actually recommend for most people, plus the feedback I've gotten from many other tier 27 AR players, that Winter Cecilia is still really good in Astra, and I'm really going to just sum this up to just the fact that she's colorless and the amount of dagger options that players have. Being a tome user and being blue don't really lend yourself to being consistent. Imagine this. Donald was a good blue tank in Astra season before Thrasier came out, and Thrasier is green, so green shuts down traditional blue tanks. Therefore, Brunnya doesn't enter the meta in a good spot because she challenges Thrasier, and if she doesn't beat Thrasier, then bad things happen. Meaning Wings of Mercy, dance follow-ups, and just straight up Brunnya dying. I mean, she's not invincible, but that's kind of thing. She also has the hard matchups against units like Bike, or any other random green wildcard unit you might see. I've seen a couple of Ravens even, or Linus and whatnot. So these are all things to consider. Sure, she has the favored matchup against red, but a colorless just having an even matchup across the board is going to matter. So that pretty much summarizes how I think about Brunnya overall. Remember, the video's tailored towards Ether raids, high level, tier 21 plus up to tier 27, kind of how I feel. And the better the map you run into, the more these problems will present themselves with a tank like Brunnya. However, should the meta change, or there's a new meta, the meta change, or a new game mode comes out, Brunnya will be a pretty good unit. So looking at her base stats at level 1 kind of gives you a good idea of what stats she raises on her first merge, which is HP, attack, and res. That's pretty good. Those are all desirable stats for a tank, so solid. Moving on, we have our max level stats. This doesn't include the weapon, which is obviously 14 attack for range units, and res 3 off of Fimbulvetter. I'm not going to get that one right. Fimbulvetter also has the additional effect that when she's debuffed or have any sort of panic negative status effect, she gains 4 to all stats, or if she's damaged. I feel like if she's damaged is kind of like a trap when people read this text effect. I've seen Fury builds on a tank. Don't do that, okay? There's a place to use Fury, but it's not here. Tanks don't want residual damage caused by Fury, because if you run Fury, then all you really do is make sure your tank dies after multiple matchups, especially if you don't have consistent healing. Consistent healing through the form of Noontime, Mystic Boost, Sparkling Boost, etc. So generally speaking, don't recommend anything with Fury. Even if it does give you those additional stats, they're not worth it. There's better A slots anyways. Okay, so with that being said, it's pretty solid stat spread. Looks pretty good for Astra, where her defenses will will line up a little bit better with Res. However, since she's blue, it kind of conflicts with good team compositions because Naga, the current Astra Mythic, is also blue. Now, I don't think Astra's going to be only with Naga forever, but since Naga provides defense, and that's the stat that Brunnya is going to want, she's kind of always going to want Naga on the defense team. At least one Naga, but 3 blues, oof. Okay, first build we're going to look at today. Fimbulvelter isn't in the unit builder, so we're going to stick with Thoron for now. The difference is that she would lose 2 HP, as shown here, and actually 1 more attack. But everything else is pretty much the same in a final stat spread version of Fimbulvelter. So, best teammates. Well, this one's a given because it's the best for everyone. Corrin. But there is a huge difference in how you want to look at Corrin compared to Brunnya. Now, compared to traditional tanks, Brunnya wants to get chilled by everything, all chills. So Corrin doesn't want to be stacking his stats too much. In fact, I would probably argue that maybe Fury 3 isn't even ideal on Corrin on the left, and you may want to use something like Fortress Defense 3, just because you know that he's going to be soaking chill defense in most cases anyways, and you just want to lower his effective stats as much as possible so that Corrin doesn't get hit by chills and Brunnya does. It's kind of like the reverse effect of every other support combination. The build that we have shown here with Brunnya, again, very expensive. I mean, you have close counter, no follow-up. Attack smoke could be like pulse smoke even, like pretty high investment stuff. But the thing that's really notable here is no follow-up beats like impact skills. Close counter gives you good matchups against both melee and range units, which is important, and Swift Stance is kind of given to you to make sure that because of no follow-up, you're pretty much winning speed checks, and Swift Stance provides the much needed res and speed to beat a lot of matchups. Also, you'll see that Corrin on the left is running double drive speed, along with the fact that he'll be likely summoner, not summoner, but ally supported with Brunnya, and that gives her all the way up to about 50-60 speed once supported. And that's really important because the way you want to use Brunnya is pretty much to win against Thrasier. And because Thrasier has finger as a weapon, eye finger, a finger, whatever, it denies it denies follow-ups. So you can't use QR to run Brunnya. You need to actually win a speed check. Now, if you ever calced Thrasier's speed when you consider in finger, killing intent, Fury, or even other super fast speed check skills that she has, she can reach easily into the 50 or 60 speeds. Thankfully, the interaction of killing intent is fairly complicated actually versus Brunnya. If she's only debuffed, meaning she only has decrease in stats, killing intent doesn't work. If she's damaged, then killing intent works. If she has a negative status effect on her, gravity, panic, actually, then killing intent works. So it has this condition where it doesn't work, and that's where if you're just having like chills on her. So Brunnya wants that situation. She wants to get chilled, but doesn't want to get hit by panic, because that actually removes the buffs you would put on her. It just becomes +4 to all stats rather than providing the buffs. So believe it or not, panic is pretty good against Brunnya, but and unlike other tanks, it just ends up being a nullify kind of effect. So the way you beat her toughest matchup is to speed stack and double Thrasier back and kill her. That's pretty much the best way to do it. There's still other bad matchups though, which is pretty much any traditional green, like Bike. It's really hard to kill for her. So because of that, she's in trouble. Not shown here actually as a support is Brave Micaiah. Brave Micaiah with Yoon's Whispers not only makes Brunnya easier to tank with because it lowers enemy attack, but it lowers speed as well. So that creates an easier speed check for Brunnya to win. However, Corrin does provide more speed overall, even over something like Yoon's Whispers. So that's why I've decided to show Corrin here. You could actually run like double drive speed Brave Micaiah with Yoon Whispers, which is technically 6 speed given to Brunnya, -6 to the enemy Thrasier, whereas Corrin in this with 2 spaces away gives 11 speed. So there's 1 speed of a difference if you played it like that. I guess with ally support is 13. Brave Makai has a slight advantage, so 2 more stats more, but that's assuming Use Whispers is always working, and that's the hard part to think about. So yeah, next build on Brunnya. This one is a little bit different, but it really does hammer down the hardest matchup for her to create as much consistency as possible, which is giving up close counter, giving up your melee matchups, and in most cases Brunnya is pretty much always not adjacent to anyone because you don't want to play that way. And it gives her extra attack, gives her speed. Running low attack speed gives you even more speed advantages against the enemy. Plus, it also has the dual effect of kind of not caring about enemy buffs. The low attack also helps her with tanking. So this is actually really good, really synergistic, really expensive of a build, but really good to make sure that she wins her matchups against Thrasier. I've calced this with a couple of the high level players in my community, and yeah, this will do it. Like, this will beat Thrasiers, most Thrasiers, especially if you have like a bolt tower and no enemy healing tower, which is rare, but if it does happen, this will do it, and Brunnya becomes far more consistent as a unit. She gets a lot of speed here. You're looking at easily into the 60s, high 60s, and I'm like surprised to even say this, but high 60 speed is what you need to beat her tough matchup, which is unfortunately through speed stacking. Problem here is if you run into like a green sturdy impact unit, that's gonna suck because she may actually miss the kill. High res green sturdy impact or mere impact units will give her some trouble, and that's, I mean, it's kind of rare. I don't see it too often, but you never know. Finally, the way that you might want to be using Brunnya on defense. This is probably what I would recommend. So, you know, there's not a lot of range units that are good on a front line, and that's kind of cool. So if you have a mostly ranged team on AR defense, then Brunnya is actually a pretty good unit to use as a frontline range unit. Think something like Salif, honestly. Glacies isn't even needed here. You could probably get away with something like Miracle, but you'd have to change out Fury 4, and based on her HP stat and who's pulsing her, there's a lot of flexibility we had here. What this kind of accomplishes is just to create a really difficult unit to kill on AR defense. So you're looking at a unit with easily 100 plus physical bulk, 100 plus resistance bulk, and if you don't kill her in one round, she nukes you back with Glacies. Assuming at least one pulse from a Dancer, that'll be the case. So that is kind of what I was looking at here at defense. She also works really well with Thrasier because she bumps up the stat that Brunnya otherwise has a low speed stat of. Now, if they don't kill her, they leave her low, she doesn't proc Glacies, for instance, then you have your potential checkmate unit. Well, not always, because you could always melee her, but it still creates some awkward matchups, and this is ideally how you would use her on defense. But yeah, that pretty much sums up Brunnya, guys. I hope this helped you figure out how you wanted to use Brunnya. Again, I'd probably wait until at least a couple more units come out through Tempest Trials or GHB. We've had hit or miss on a lot of good and bad units. Like, for example, Kronia can be a good unit, but the meta adapts and shuts her down. And when I say meta, I mean people just put their healing towers in the back and then she's kind of a lot worse. And I think people didn't recognize that initially. So Brunnya, save your grails is kind of like what I would summarize this as. And maybe consider someone like Winter Cecilia instead if you have the fodder for her as well. I mean, special fighter comes through lots of units now. Lots of dagger options, same amount of grail cost, so yeah, wait for it. Anyways, let me know what you think of Brunnya. Comments below, give the video a thumbs up, sub to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.